When Elon Musk stepped out of his Tesla at a quiet Los Angeles street corner, he had no idea his life was about to change as much as the man he was about to meet. The man in question? A homeless Marine named Jake Thompson. Jake had been sitting on the same corner for weeks, wearing a tattered military jacket, a small American flag patch still hanging onto the sleeve. His face, weathered by time and hardship, carried the quiet strength of a soldier who had seen things most couldn't imagine. Elon, usually moving from one meeting to the next, was waiting for his car to charge at a nearby supercharger. Something about Jake caught his attention. He walked over. "Hey man, you okay?" Elon asked, his voice filled with curiosity rather than pity. Jake looked up, his sharp blue eyes scanning the billionaire before him. "I've been worse," he said with a small smirk. Elon sat down beside him. "What's your story?" Jake hesitated for a moment before sighing. "Served 2 tours overseas. Came back and found nothing waiting for me. No job, no family, no home. VA's got a long wait list and most people don't want to hire a guy with PTSD." Elon listened intently. He wasn't used to feeling helpless, but something about Jake's situation struck a nerve. "You ever think about getting into engineering or mechanics?" Jake let out a short laugh. "You think a guy living on the street can just waltz into a job like that?" Elon grinned. "You'd be surprised. What if I told you I could help?" Jake studied Elon's face, searching for any sign of mockery, but all he saw was sincerity. "All right," Jake finally said. "I'll bite. What's the catch?" "No catch," Elon replied. "Come with me." What happened next was nothing short of life-changing. Elon took Jake to a nearby Tesla facility, where he introduced him to a team of engineers. He arranged for Jake to get a fresh set of clothes, a meal, and a place to stay. But most importantly, he offered Jake a chance. "You start as an apprentice," Elon explained. "No handouts, just a shot at rebuilding your life." Jake, unsure whether to believe what was happening, nodded. "I won't waste it." Months passed and Jake threw himself into learning. From basic mechanics to advanced engineering principles, he absorbed everything like a sponge. The same discipline that had carried him through the military now pushed him forward at Tesla. Elon checked in often, sometimes bringing Jake along to meetings or factory tours. He saw something in Jake. Something rare. Then came the day that changed everything. During a team brainstorming session, Jake hesitantly raised his hand. "I think I might have a solution to the battery overheating issue," he said. The room went silent. "Go on," Elon encouraged. Jake outlined his idea, drawing from his military experience with thermal regulation in extreme environments. By the end of his explanation, the lead engineers were nodding in agreement. "This could actually work," one of them muttered. Elon smiled. "Let's test it." The results? Game-changing. Jake's solution improved battery efficiency, making Tesla's vehicles safer and more reliable. His contribution didn't go unnoticed. Within weeks, he was offered a full-time engineering role. 1 year later, Jake stood on the stage at a Tesla event, shaking hands with Elon Musk as his promotion was announced. From homeless Marine to lead engineer, his journey had been nothing short of extraordinary. As he addressed the crowd, Jake's voice was steady. "I was given a chance when I had nothing, and now I want to give back. There are thousands of veterans like me, skilled, disciplined, but forgotten. If I can make it, so can they." Elon, standing beside him, nodded. "And that's why Tesla is launching a veteran training program. Jake's story is just the beginning." The applause was deafening. From a street corner to a stage, from lost to found, Jake's life had come full circle. And all it took was one conversation, one opportunity, and the belief that no one is ever truly beyond redemption. When the event ended, Jake stepped off the stage and found himself surrounded by reporters, Tesla employees, and even fellow veterans who had come to see him speak. But there was one person he didn't expect: his old commanding officer, Major Reynolds. "Jake," the older man said, his voice carrying the same authority it always had. But this time, there was something else: pride. Jake snapped to attention instinctively. "Sir!" "At ease, son," Major Reynolds said, gripping Jake's shoulder. "I heard about what you've done. Damn proud of you." Jake felt a lump in his throat. He had spent so long believing that his service had ended in nothing, that his sacrifices had led to a dead end. But standing here now, with his former commander's approval and a future ahead of him, he realized something. He hadn't been lost. He had just needed a new mission. That mission became clear within days. Tesla's new veteran training program, which Elon had announced on stage, wasn't just a publicity stunt. It was real. And Elon wanted Jake to help build it from the ground up. "We're going to start small," Elon told him in a private meeting. 10 veterans at first. Teach them the skills, integrate them into the company, and prove that this works. Then, we scale. Jake nodded. "I'm in." The first group of veterans arrived 2 months later. Some were struggling with PTSD, others simply couldn't find stable jobs. All of them had the same look Jake once had, the look of men and women who had given everything and received nothing in return. Jake stood before them in a Tesla training facility, hands in his pockets, knowing this moment could change lives. "I know what you're thinking," he said. "You're wondering if this is real, if this is just another empty promise, if I'm just some guy standing up here telling you things will get better." He paused, letting the silence settle. "I thought the same thing, but I'm here, and I promise you, if you put in the work, if you refuse to quit, you will walk out of here with a future." The room remained silent for a moment. Then, one by one, the veterans straightened their backs. They weren't used to handouts. But they were used to challenges. And this was a challenge they were ready to face. Under Jake's leadership, the program flourished. Veterans learned engineering, software development, battery technology, skills that would secure their futures. Companies took notice. Tesla's success inspired other firms to follow suit. SpaceX, Boeing, even tech giants like Google and Apple began launching their own veteran training initiatives. The ripple effect was undeniable. Homelessness among veterans began to decline. Unemployment rates dropped. And for the first time in a long time, these men and women had something they thought they had lost: hope. A year after the program launched, Jake received an email from an unknown sender. The subject line read, "Thank you." He opened it. "Jake, I don't know if you remember me, but I was in the first training group. Before that, I was sleeping in my car. I thought I had nothing left. But you changed that. Today, I started my first official day as a Tesla engineer. I have an apartment now. I have a future. You saved my life." Jake stared at the screen, his vision blurring. A knock on his office door pulled him from his thoughts. Elon stepped inside. "Good news?" Elon asked, nodding toward the laptop. Jake exhaled and smiled. "The best." Elon smirked. "Then let's keep it going." And they did. The veteran program expanded nationwide, transforming not just Tesla but the entire industry. Jake's story spread beyond the company, reaching policymakers, military leaders, and everyday citizens who wanted to help. Years later, at a ceremony honoring his work, Jake stood at the podium once again. The same small American flag patch from his old Marine jacket now framed behind him. He looked out at the audience, veterans, engineers, Elon himself, and spoke the words that had defined his journey. No one is ever truly beyond redemption. All they need is a chance. After the ceremony, Jake found himself surrounded by familiar faces, veterans who had gone through the program, Tesla engineers who had mentored them, and even journalists who had followed his story from the beginning. But there was one face, in the crowd that made him stop in his tracks. A woman stood near the back, her hands clasped in front of her. She looked nervous, as if she wasn't sure she belonged there. But Jake recognized her instantly. "Samantha?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper. She smiled. "Hey, Jake." It had been years since he had last seen his younger sister. They had lost touch when he deployed, and after returning home and spiraling into homelessness, he had convinced himself she was better off without him. But here she was. "I saw the news," Samantha said, taking a hesitant step forward. "I saw everything you've done, and I had to come." Jake swallowed hard. "I thought you didn't want to see me. I thought you didn't want to be found." They stood there in silence for a moment before Samantha pulled him into a tight hug. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. For the first time in years, Jake felt whole again, but his journey was far from over. Elon had bigger plans. One afternoon, Jake sat across from Elon in his office, watching the billionaire sketch ideas on a whiteboard. "What if we expanded the program beyond Tesla?" Elon mused. "Not just for veterans, but for anyone who needs a second chance. Formerly incarcerated individuals, people recovering from addiction, foster kids aging out of the system." Jake leaned forward, intrigued. "A nationwide program?" "Global," Elon corrected, his eyes gleaming. "We start with Tesla, but we build something bigger. A network of companies willing to take a chance on people like you once were." Jake exhaled. He had gone from living on the streets to standing at the helm of something that could change millions of lives. "I'm in," he said. The expansion began in major cities first: Los Angeles, Houston, Chicago, New York. Tesla partnered with organizations focused on rehabilitation, job training, and homelessness prevention. Companies in tech, construction, and manufacturing joined in, offering apprenticeships and employment to those who had been overlooked by society. The results were staggering. Unemployment rates among veterans and marginalized groups plummeted. Crime rates in participating cities dropped. Families were reunited, lives were rebuilt, and hope spread like wildfire. One evening, as Jake walked through a Tesla facility, he overheard a conversation between two new apprentices. "I still can't believe this is real," one said. "Last year I was in a shelter. Now I'm here working on electric cars." "Yeah," the other replied, shaking his head. "And all because some homeless Marine took a chance." Jake smiled to himself. It wasn't just his life that had changed. It was the world.